Okay, we are on the air. WindyCityHometown.com, www.windycityhometown.com. Paranormal Radioactivity, or Paranormal Radio, I should say. Radioactivity was the old show. We are actually broadcasting live from the Bridgeview Library. We've got an audience of folks here that came to hear a lecture on the local paranormal. My name is Bob Trazik. Just to introduce myself a little bit, what I do is I ghost hunt. I'm a paranormal investigator. I don't do this full time. That's not my full-time thing because you really don't make a living at doing this, but it's a fun thing to do. It's a wonderful side thing. It's nice to have this knowledge and share this. Some of what we're going to cover tonight, we're going to cover some of the stories you have heard, some of the stuff you've kind of grown up with, you're familiar with, and maybe some you're not familiar with. And I kind of like to give you some of them, both sides of the stories, like some of the truth to it and some of the urban legends, some of the stuff you have heard. We just have to acknowledge a few folks here. Mr. John DeVita with www.windycityhometown.com. His assistant, Mr. Bob Holmes, they're the gentlemen that set up all this equipment. They've been here like since 2 o'clock this afternoon setting all this up. So there's a little work involved with these things. Mr. John Shikanda, who I've known for about a year and finally just met today, he does the videotaping of our shows and gets them edited and gets them ready for us. We're on YouTube and also with the Windy City station. And then Mr. Tim Haddock, the gentleman sitting in the back there, is with the Des Plaines Valley newspaper. He's out here doing a story with us. So we got everything. We got radio, we got video coverage, we got newspaper coverage, everything. Big star, huh? Yeah. Okay, Southside Supernatural, that's what we're going to start off with. Are you going to click that, or is that for me to do?
Yeah, just let me know when you...
Go ahead, click to the first picture. We're just going to get you started. We ran a little late. Okay, we're starting off. We say Southside Supernatural. This is actually not Southside. This is North Riverside. The Woodlawn Cemetery, Showmens Rest of America. It's a small little plot. If you go up to Woodlawn, it's like 22nd. Lady in the back is shaking her head. She knows exactly where it's at. There's a small little plot if you go to, like Cermak in Harlem, like 22nd Street, right not too far from the North Riverside Mall. We have this little area called Showmens Rest of America. And what this is, it's a burial plot. It's not a real big plot of ground. And it was actually founded by Buffalo Bill Cody, the famous Wild West showman. He founded this in 1918. This one we have here in Illinois, and then there's also another one out in Dakota, out west they have one. That's the one where he's buried at. And this is set up for performers, people that were carnival workers, circus workers, some vaudeville performers, things like that, that maybe had nobody, no family to bury them and everything, just so they had a spot reserved for them so they could have a decent burial. And why we like to focus this one, and I like this one with the tours because I do run some little bus tours and things with some of the park districts. We like showing you this one because this one does have some paranormal activity in it. It's not a real big plot of ground. There are 5 of these elephant statues. This is the biggest one, and it's like in the middle, and then there's 2 like to your left, and there's 2 to the right of this area, this plot of ground. And it's not a real big area. For it to be there since 1918, you think it would be all full already, but it's not. There's still a lot of empty spots there where you can be buried. And what we like to focus on this is the circus train wreck of the Hagenbach and Wallace Circus. This happened June 22nd of 1918. Hagenbach and Wallace was a huge circus. This is in the heyday of the circuses when you had, for entertainment, a little bit pre-movies, you had circus, you had vaudeville, and you had phonograph records, and you had opera, and that was about it for entertainment. So circus was when the circus came to town, it was a big event. Hagenbach and Wallace was not a little outfit by any means. Their biggest competitor was Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey. What happened with them was, just about 10 minutes outside of the city of Hammond, Indiana, which would have been their next spot for their next performance, they stopped on the tracks. And to this day, they don't know why they stopped there. They said that the engineer of the train had taken some sort of a kidney pill or something. It made him a little drowsy. He didn't want to continue engineering the train, so he stopped on the tracks so he could take a little nap and then wake up. Another one was that he had a heavy meal. After you eat a big meal, you like to take a nap and doze. Whatever reason, they don't know why he stopped on the tracks, but unbeknownst to a troop train right behind them, fortunately an empty troop train. Now, this was 1918, so it was a World War I train, and empty, fortunately, just slammed right into them full throttle while they were stopped on the tracks. So it became a big tragedy. Many, many people, they had like 162 deaths, 62 of which are buried here in this Showman's Rest. And just a lot of casualties. You had a very famous aerial family that was completely wiped out, circus strongmen, a lot of performers. In addition to headliners and circus performers, you had a lot of roustabouts, people that set up the tents, circus hands, animal trainers, this kind of thing. A lot of these folks were killed in this accident. And to make matters even worse, now this is a steam-driven train, and they had kerosene lamps. A lot of them were burnt really badly beyond recognition. So when you go to Showman's Rest, if you want to click to the next one, you'll see all these gravestones, and it almost seems like they're endless. There's just so many of them, and they just say on there, unknown, like this, unknown male, unknown. There's one unknown female that they have there, unknown male, and they're all dated, June 22nd, 1918. These are all victims from this circus train wreck. A couple of them are marked, if they knew some sort of a nickname, like there's one stone there that says Baldy. That was his nickname, so they knew him by Baldy, and they could positively identify him. They put Baldy on his tombstone. One says 4-horse driver. This is in the days when the circus horses were still very active in performing as well as working with the circus. And I guess his skill was he drove a team of 4 horses, and that's what they knew him by. And that's what's on his stone, 4-horse driver. So now you're saying this is a nice little story, but where does this tie in with the paranormal? Here's where it goes. This is one case where you have a transfer of paranormal activity. Strangely enough, nothing happens where the train wreck took place. Like you see, this is the exact location. It's a train track, so you don't have like an exact address. We can't say it's on the corner of Western and Halstead or whatever, but we do know where it happened. And like you said, it was just right side, 10 minutes. They were outside of Hammond. That would have been their next performance. And nothing there has ever happened. Nothing, right where the accident occurred. But activity does go on here in this cemetery. What we get here mercifully is we do not see any entities or spirits. We don't see anybody, fortunately, because like I say, many of these people were burnt or mangled beyond recognition, so we're spared seeing them. But what people experience here are sounds, and they experience smells. People have been known to stand here at this cemetery and visiting and just looking around on a nice clear day, and just all of a sudden the smell of smoke overtakes them. There's some fire. They can't figure out what it is. And you look around, you don't see any smoke, you don't hear anything about a fire in the area. And also, too, they've been known to hear a train wreck or a car crash. First off, because you've got some highways there, and 22nd is like just feet from the burial plot there, not too far. So you hear all this mangling and twisting of metal and all this, and they're startled, and they look to see if there's an accident there or something, and there's nothing there. And then later on, you'll check it out and see if there was an accident in the air or some wreck that would have caused this. Nothing. Nothing about that. So it's one of these cases where you have a transfer. So you have some, because there's other ways you experience paranormal besides just seeing the ghost. Everyone wants to see the ghost, of course. You don't always. I would venture to say that everybody sitting here has had some sort of a paranormal experience, either through that feeling you get where something creepy, somebody's been watching you, you feel like somebody's behind you, or just that you smell cigarette smoke or smell flowers, cologne, something like that. This is the kind of thing that goes on here. Now, another thing that what we try to do in paranormal is try to debunk things. When we find some activity going on, what we try to do first is disprove it, oddly enough. You think people that are paranormal investigators would want to prove that it is real. But what we try to do first is find some logical reasoning, what's causing this. And when we exhaust all of our sources and we have no explanation for it, then we say, okay, we have something supernatural here, we have something paranormal. Another thing that people experience here, and it's an urban legend, is animal sounds. They claim you can hear lions roar, you can hear the sounds of elephants. We debunk this, we explain this, because Brookfield Zoo is not too far down the road from this cemetery, this burial plot. And on a good day, and I've done this myself just to debunk it, on a good day when traffic sounds aren't too heavy and things are clear and the wind is going in the right direction, you can hear animal sounds from Brookfield Zoo there. So I could see where that might spark some people's imagination to thinking that they're hearing some animals that were killed in the wreck. Another one of the urban legends here is that there are elephants buried in this plot of ground that were killed in the train wreck. And that's an urban legend. It's not so. I think this started just because there are these 5 statues of elephants around this cemetery. No elephants or animals are buried in this plot of ground. It's strictly performers and circus hands, roustabouts, and that kind of thing like that, as well as other show people. Not only the circus trained people are here, but there's other folks buried there too, other show people that are buried there. Reason for that is they say these elephants are buried there just because there's these statues. No elephants or animals were killed in this wreck. Fortunately, they were on another train. This train that got hit during this wreck was just strictly people. Animals were on another train, and they fortunately were not harmed. And oddly enough, Hagenbeck and Walls did not miss a performance. They went right on with the Hammond show. They went right on with all their performances. Circuses are very, very competitive and very superstitious. Circus people are extremely, extremely superstitious people. The Chinese are superstitious, circus people, show people, and the Italians. They say are real superstitious people. But they went on with their performances, and other circuses came to their assistance, loaned them equipment, loaned them some performers, and in the true show business tradition, the show went on. They didn't stop. They do have these dedications here. This is an old photo, which you can kind of see there. Every now and again, they have these ceremonies there where they dedicate this, like a rededication for this ground, for Showmen's Rest. And there is an urban legend here that is true. And I found this one out just recently. There's a small ivory statue of an elephant, which is extremely valuable, and it's buried somewhere in Showmen's Rest. Only 3 people know where this is at. 3 people living today know where that elephant is buried, and there's also one in Dakota, in the plot they have out west. There's an elephant buried there, same thing. So that is one of the little urban legends. So this is a spot where you do have some paranormal activity we just can't explain. We have these sounds and these smells, and like I say, it's a case of a transfer. Now, you say, why would this not happen over there? For whatever reason. These spirits, these folks are buried here. They carried their disaster with them, and we're experiencing that here, but we don't experience anything on the train tracks over there where the actual disaster happened. We're going to click to the next one here, and we will get to Frank Nitti. Nice looking guy there, huh? Mr. Frank Nitti, almost directly across the street from Woodlawn Cemetery, well, across and maybe just a little bit over, right in the Toys R Us parking lot there in North Riverside. If you're familiar with that area on 22nd and Cermak, there, right, just right around the corner of Harlem and Cermak. There's a parking lot there, a Toys R Us parking lot. We had some train tracks. Train tracks are now gone, and we have the North Riverside Mall there. We have the haunt of Mr. Frank Nitti. You can't do a ghost story in Chicago area without some kind of a gangster ghost. Frank Nitti is our gangster ghost from this area. Frank Nitti, just a short bio on him, born 1888, died 1943, emigrated over from Italy to New York, got mixed up with the mob, with the Black Hand, with the Mafia, and then came into Chicago, and of course, who does he meet in Chicago? None other than Al Capone. Hits it off real well with Al Capone. The two become together. Oh, some water for me? Thank you. Thank you, Kathy. Kathy McGann Otto of the library. We got to mention all the names we can since this is going to be on the radio broadcast. She brings me some water here. She can kind of hear me struggling along. And Frank Nitti becomes Al Capone's right-hand man. They too head the organization. They run things. They run the Mafia here in Chicago. They become very powerful. And Frank Nitti and Al Capone become one and the same. They become like Godfather and Godson. So what happens is they both get indicted on charges, the same charges, tax evasion. They had been trying to get Capone for a long, long time on anything, and they just couldn't. And finally, it was tax evasion that got him sent to Alcatraz. Frank Nitti also went up for the same thing, tax evasion. They got him on. But strangely enough, Al Capone gets 11 years. Frank Nitti gets 11 months. Well, Al Capone's kind of thrilled about this. He's not thrilled that he's going to be in Alcatraz for 11 years. He's stuck there, but he's thrilled that Frank Nitti is going to be out and running the organization while he's still incarcerated in prison. So things go well for a while, but then Frank Nitti decides he doesn't want to just concentrate on prohibition, which by now, by the 40s, is kind of ending. Prohibition is over. Drugs they're getting into now, illegally, prostitution, and other gang activities that they're making a bundle of money on. He decides to go to the West Coast, and he wants to get Hollywood involved. So he concocts a scheme to extort money from some of the major studios, and some major film stars of the period, too, were kind of involved in this, too. I don't know exactly who, but they say there were some very notable people that were involved. And, of course, Hollywood doesn't want to mess around with this, and the FBI catches wind of this. And Frank Nitti, again, now comes up on charges of extortion. He's trying to extort money out of some famous Hollywood studios and movie stars in Hollywood. And prison is coming around the corner for him again. He kind of sees this as a no-win situation for himself. Either he's going to go back to prison. If he doesn't go back to prison, he's going to have to rat on some important people in the organization and tell them what's going on, and they, in turn, are going to bump him off. So kind of one way or the other, he knows it's like a no-win situation for him. And then also, too, there's a story that he may have been ill himself and had cancer and may have already been dying anyway and did not want to go back to prison for that reason. So he lives not too far from the train tracks where this happens. He lives at 212 Selborne. The house is still there. It's in Riverside. But don't go ask him if Frank Nitti haunts it. They won't tell you. I wouldn't either, to be honest with you, because then you get a lot of onlookers that come there. So he tells his wife on a Sunday she's going to go to church. And he says, no, I'm not going to go. I'm going to take a walk. So he walks over to Harlem and Cermak, almost there by the train tracks, like I say, which are no longer there, which is it's a pretty considerable walk where he ends up. And there he decides to end his life and commit suicide and get his way out of this. So some men that were there working on the trains and stuff said they heard actually 3 shots. They believe what they saw him take the pistol and fire 2 into the ground, and then finally the third one he puts it to his head, blasts and kills himself and drops dead right there. His spirit has been known to show up on those train tracks, on that hillside there. It's kind of a little grassy knoll type thing there, and the train would run right along there. And there's like 2 telephone poles there, right in the Toys R Us park. The reason I found out this is because I worked for Toys R Us for 24 years there, so I found all these stories out, and I parked my car right there every day. But I never saw Frank Nitti's ghost. I have to be honest with you, I never did see it. I did experience the sounds, or the smells, or the fire over at Woodlawn, but I never did come in contact with Frank Nitti's ghost, but I talked to many, many people that claim, yes, they did indeed encounter him. And so he shows up there. Click to the next picture, and he also shows up at another spot. He likes to move from the train tracks down into the mall. Frank Nitti's been known to be seen in that shopping mall in North Riverside. This happens during times when they'll have these special sales in the mall, like where Carson's and Sears will be open, but not the mall, because they have outside entrances. So you can go in Sears, you can go in Carson's, you can go in Penny's, and then you exit, you go out into the parking lot. You don't go into the mall. But when they do these sales in the mall, they still have to have security in the mall in case someone should somehow or another stray and get in there, so they have to kind of watch things. Well, this happens during those type of things. Security will be walking around and they see this, they always describe them the same way. I've talked to at least a half a dozen of them with the same story. Trench-coated, fedora hat, walks around, they never see his face, they see the man walking and they say, "Sir, excuse me, you're going to have to leave, mall's closed, how did you get in here?" Doesn't respond, no response. They try it again, "Sir, excuse me." Again, nothing, no response. Then they call other security guards. By the time other security gets there, they dart after him. He goes around the corner, and he just vanishes. That's it. So he does like to haunt the North Riverside Mall, too. He shows up there. Why he transfers himself, maybe he just likes to shop. We don't know. He transfers himself from the train tracks into the mall. Mall was not there, definitely, when he died in 1943. Like I said, I have 24 years I worked there and parked my car there and all kinds of weather. You try different atmospheric conditions too when these things manifest. Fog, clear days, cold days, sunny days, extremes in temperature, nothing. Never saw Frank Nitti's ghost, but talked to many, many people. It's a very documented incident and a lot of credibility to it. I believe his spirit does appear there. You just have to be in tune the right way. So for 24 years, I was just never in tune with Frank Nitti's spirit. We're going to click to the next one here, and I forgot what I had. My nephew did these photos for me here, so I don't exactly what he put on there. Oh, this is Mary Ellis Quinn. One thing I like to say is, and not to come down on anything, but in our area here, the Catholic Archdiocese does not like to play up to the paranormal. Yeah, you're shaking your head. You've had experience with this. If you go to Resurrection Cemetery and you go in their office and you say, "I'd like to find out where the grave is of Resurrection Mary," they'll go, "Who?" That's about it. If you tell them, "I want to find out about the bars that were bent supposedly by Mary's hand," nope. They give you no information about this at all. The Catholic Archdiocese here, any of the cemeteries, not only ours in this area, but anywhere, they just don't recognize the paranormal. This is one instance where they do. And not to come down on them for any, other areas of the country you travel, like if you go to New Orleans and other areas, Catholic Church is very active in the paranormal. They encourage it. And for a while here we did too, like when Cardinal Bernardine was our Archbishop of Chicago, he encouraged investigation into the paranormal, and then when things change hand, pendulum kind of swings the other way. This is one instance where the church does recognize the paranormal, only because this is kind of tied in with the sainthood. Holy Sepulchre Cemetery over on 111th Street there in Worth, we have the grave of Mary Ellis Quinn. Mary Ellis Quinn, just to give a little bit of story out of her, there's not much story to her. She died at 14 years of age in 1935. Very devoted to prayer, prayed to St. Teresa and to St. Jude, and supposedly she had the gift of healing. She healed people from their ailments, from their illnesses. She died at a very young age, I believe, of tuberculosis, and is buried in Holy Sepulchre. And for many, many years, the family did not put her name on the tombstone just because they didn't want to draw attention to it and have pilgrimages there and people visiting like people do. And then finally, it was like one of the worst kept secrets. Everybody knew it was there and everybody found out about it. So they just went ahead and put her name on it. One side of the tombstone says Riley. The other side of it says Quinn. And her name is on there, Mary Ellis Quinn, with the date of her death and that. This is the side. There it is right there at the bottom. Mary Ellis Quinn died 1935. People do make pilgrimages to this thing all the time. Paranormal activity that's been known to happen there. This is one I did experience. For some reason, I'm in tune with paranormal smells. You can go here in the dead of winter. I mean, like a sub-zero day. Things are just right, and if you're just kind of in tune with things, you will smell flowers. And there again, like I say, you try to investigate this and you try to debunk it and find something reasonable that's causing this. So I say, okay, was there just a funeral in the area here where there are some fresh cut flowers by someone's grave? That's what I'm smelling. Someone's perfume who may be in the area or something, and you realize you're standing out there by yourself, there's no one else around. You do smell roses, you smell flowers there, no question about it. Also, too, they've been known to see in photographs and things, people love to come here and take pictures, people have been known to see an image of a little girl in a white dress hovering above this tombstone. They've been known to see that. People still go here. Well, I started thinking it, so I'll tell you, I don't like to say this just because we don't want people doing it, but people do go there and take dirt from her grave. They bring the dirt home, and supposedly they have claim healings from this. We don't like to say this because we don't want people going there and digging, taking dirt, because they'll eventually dig her up if you take too much dirt from there. So people do this. It's been known to happen. This is one instance where the church does recognize the paranormal. You can go in their office and they will give you, you get that little map when you're trying to find someone's grave. They will give you one from Mary Alice Quinn's grave. And this is because of the sainthood. She's to be canonized for the sainthood. Just tells you how long this process takes. She died in 1935. She's still not a saint. Did we go to Mary Alice Quinn's when you were with us with Summit? Yeah, we did take it, because sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. So that's why the church kind of recognized this one as the paranormal, because of the sainthood. It's kind of tied in with it. We'll click to the next picture here. And like I say, not to come down on the church about that, but they're just very funny about that, and it's in our area. Like I say, other areas of the country, they welcome the paranormal. This is a good one here. A lot of people don't know this is here. This is in Orland Park, over on not right on 143rd, for a little off of 143rd and Beacon Avenue. And this is the John Humphries house. The house dates about 1880. It's the second oldest home in Orland Park, but it's the oldest existing home in Orland Park. Dates 1880. Now you wonder, what in the heck was out in Orland Park in 1880? Not a whole lot. This man was a U.S. Senator. His name was John Humphries. And this house has a lot of paranormal activity in it. It is a historic home. It's on the historic registry. But you have very, very limited visitation to it. They only open this house up the second Sunday of the month, 2 hours, from 2 to 4. It's the only time you can get in there. Sometimes when I do bring a group through, some of the folks that run it, I'll call them and say, we're bringing a group through, can we come in the house? And they'll let us go in and we can actually go through the house, and they'll tell us all the history of it and everything like that. And they will tell us a little bit about the paranormal and the activity that goes on there. Sometimes they won't let us in because they're just not going to be around. They have other things to do too. They're not there to open the house for us. So, but we do like to point this one out. And this has a real good tie with Bachelors Grove Cemetery, which is down on 143rd. Senator Humphries was married twice. The first Mrs. Humphries died. She had a child. She died, not in childbirth, but the child died first, and then she died some years later, and her child is buried in Bachelors Grove Cemetery. And now it's not in the Humphries plot, it's in the plot Patrick. There's an old stone there. They're all old stones in Bachelors Grove, and it's the Patrick family plot, because I guess Mrs. Humphries' maiden name was Patrick. The child is buried there, and for whatever reason, when Mrs. Humphries died, she's not buried there. So Mrs. Humphries' ghost is thought to be the Madonna of Bachelors Grove. You saw these famous photos of a woman in white at Bachelors Grove. If you ever looked anything up on Bachelors Grove, you'll see these photographs of it. She's called the Madonna of Bachelors Grove. They believe, 99% sure, that this is Mrs. Humphries. She does come back here to visit her child, and she is seen carrying her child and floating around in that cemetery. So that's the connection we have to this house. This house itself is loaded with a lot of paranormal activity. After the first Mrs. Humphries died, Senator Humphries married his secretary, the old dog, huh? Yeah, he married her, and she lived in the house, and they had more children together in that. And they say that the first Mrs. Humphries did not like the idea that he was living there with the second wife. They always say the second wife has it easier than the first wife. First wife struggles, the second wife has it easier, and this is the kind of thing. So they believe Mrs. Humphries' spirit really haunts this house, and she's there a lot. You get a lot of shadow figures that are seen there, a lot of things that go bump in the night, noises they can't explain, lights go on, go off, they'll light candles. Some of these investigators do these overnight investigations, and they'll run all kind of equipment. They'll run like videotaping equipment in certain corners of the house to try to pick things up. And these recordings, that they're called EVPs, they run maybe 20 hours. And later on, you have to go back and listen to all this. And they will pick up voices and different sounds that they can't explain in there. One time I was there with a group. We had a tour from Summit, and we went through there, and I did see some shadow figures. There was like a little attic space I went up into, and I looked down, and it's not a real big home, like a servant's entrance that would have gone down to the kitchen and work areas and that. And as I'm looking down, I see this black shadow figure kind of coming up, walking up the stairs towards me. And I looked at it, and I startled it as much as it startled me, because then it started backing back down and went down. And we had another younger kid on the group with us, and I says, come on up here, I want you to see something. I said, tell me what you see. He said, oh my gosh, I see that black outline. I says, good, you're seeing it too. So now I got somebody that's backing me up on this and that. So we took some photos of it, nothing came up on it. But yeah, this home does have a lot of definite activity that goes on in it. We'll click over to the next picture now, and I think now we're going to get to Bachelors Grove. Oh yeah, this is a nice photo. This is Bachelors Grove. It's a real cheerful spot. Old cemetery. It's not a Catholic cemetery, non-denominational. Over on 143rd. Everybody's kind of heard of it. Everybody heard of Bachelors Grove Cemetery? Everybody's heard of that, yeah. That's like probably one of the most haunted spots in the state of Illinois, maybe in the country for that matter. No one knows why this is such a hotbed of psychic activity and paranormal activity, but it is. Many of the paranormal investigators that I've talked with on the radio, I've had them on and in private conversations and things, they say, oh no, nothing goes on in the cemetery. It's been overdone and there's no activity that goes on there and that. But then privately they will say, yeah, we're doing investigations there and we are finding things and stuff does come up. And it does. It's an old cemetery, dates back to the 1830s. There again, you wonder what was in this area in the 1830s. Not a whole lot. Even the name itself is somewhat of a mystery. It's called Bachelors Grove. They think this may have been because it was settled by German farmers that were bachelors. They settled it, built a community, built a farming community, and then later sent for their wives, had their wives come. So it was Bachelors Grove or Bachelors Plot. Another theory is it was Batch Elder, was the name of a family. So they think it was Batch Elders Grove, named after the family, and then gradually it just got shortened to Bachelors. We really don't know why. But one thing we do know is it's just a hotbed of activity. Originally, there were 200 stones there that we know, documented, that were buried there. There's about 20 stones left, or fragments of stone. It's been so vandalized over the years. 1970s, 1980s was a real hotbed of activity here. Wasn't too uncommon to go down there and you would see fires. It's also a spot where they do a lot of satanic worship. People that practice devil worship, satanic worship, they like doing that here for whatever reason. You would, not too uncommon to find animal carcasses there, laid on tombstones. Fires, different activity. You know there were things going on there. A lot of urban legends stem out of this. Number one, the Madonna of the Grove, this woman that walks around in white. We have a couple of famous photos. We'll be showing you one of those in a second that were taken out there. It's not uncommon to see faces in trees, faces in tombstones, orbs. You take pictures, I go to a little cheap dollar store camera, no high-tech equipment or nothing for me. I get orbs all the time and I get things all the time. I've got a few faces in trees and things that I've taken. Definitely, you could see them. You know, they're not like cloud faces. We have to imagine you can actually see someone's face in it. There's a man in yellow. He wears a yellow suit and an Argyle sweater, and he walks around, and you think he's walking around, and they're just like you are, until all of a sudden you see him walking through trees. So you know he's something paranormal there. There's a story that's been documented of a man, a farmer with a plow and a horse, wearing an old, you know, like an Amish-looking getup he's dressed in, so he sticks out right away. The urban legend with him was something startled the horse, and he couldn't control it and couldn't undo himself from it, so the horse, the plow, and him got dragged into the water. There's a little lagoon there, and they drowned, and his spirit's been seen. Last time I think that one was seen. Sometimes you have these ghosts not appear for a long time. They kind of go dormant, and then they come back again. Last time his was seen was by 2 state troopers that were patrolling the area in 1969. They definitely saw his apparition there. You used to be able, this used to be part of the Midlothian Turnpike. So back in the 1970s, you could drive your car down the little road, which you now have to walk up to get to. It's kind of a considerable walk to get up to it. You could drive your car right down the road and park it right there, and you're right at the gates of the cemetery, and then you went. You can no longer do that. Now you've got to park across the street in the Cook County Forest Preserve District, the Rubio Woods, walk across, and you have a little bit of a long walk to get up to it. But it's still there. It's like one of the worst kept secrets. No one's supposed to know it's there, but everybody does know it's there, you know, one of those type of things. They're usually pretty good about letting you go in there. Just after dark, they don't want you there. After dark, I really would not want to be there. It's not a real safe place anyway. Not because of the things that go on there, but the terrain itself is very uneven and very easy to fall, and you could hurt yourself real easily. It is fenced. I don't know when they put the fence up there exactly, but for many, many years, I know you went out there, it was not fenced in. There is a fence around it now, but so many people broke the fence down, broke the gates, they finally just gave up. They let you in. Also, 2 trees fall down there for whatever reasons, from storms, and they will break the fence down, almost like to open spots up to let people in. We have a house that appears here and disappears. Although it's not actually in this cemetery or in the area around it, it's in the area, a lot of people make that mistake when they're looking for the house. It's actually in Bachelors Grove Woods, which is a little bit before Bachelors Grove Cemetery, a little bit before there on 143rd. You're shaking your head, so you know the area. Yeah. Okay, yeah, so it's over there. So people looking for the house are kind of looking in the wrong spot if you're looking for it here, because it actually appears somewhere else. You never know what you're going to find when you go out there. One time you'll see people out there and they're chanting to the trees, they're chanting things. One time we went, there were apples all over all the tombstones that are existing there. What that was about, we don't know. One time they were making a film there. You know, they had signs up and everything, please be quiet, they're filming. They had permission to film there. So you just never know what you're going to find there. All sorts of strange stuff does happen. When I know I'm bringing a group out, I try to get out there a day or two before, because one time I went, you found a couple of pheasant carcasses nailed up to a tree. So if I do see anything like that, I can just kind of let people know there is something there. So if you're going to be offended by that, maybe you don't want to go up there, but I would like you to see this. It's something worthwhile to see as far as paranormal investigating goes. We have a lot of different entities there that we have no explanation for. A lot of things pop up in photographs. Click to the next picture there. And this is one of the more famous ones. This little stone still sits there, just as it is there. It's a small stone like that. There's no name on it or anything, and it has a small little pattern on it. This photograph was taken by Dale Kaczmarek, who's the president of the Ghost Paranormal Research Society of Illinois. I think 1983 or 89 it was, if I'm not mistaken. His group was out there, and they were doing photographs during the day. You don't have to do this at night. Ghosts, common misconception is that things happen at night only. 4 times in my life where I've actually seen a ghost, it was during broad daylight. I've never actually seen one at night. I've seen mine during the day. So they appear at any time. Hollywood leads us to believe you have to do this on a stormy, dark night. When thunderstorm gets when the ghosts. Some of them do like that, but no, you'll see them at any time. They just pop up whenever. They took this photograph during broad daylight, as you can see from the photo to the, well, it would be to your right. They took this photograph, and nothing was in it when they developed it. She turned up in this photo. Now, one paranormal investigator I talked to says, that's Mrs. Humphries. That is her. Because if you look at Mrs. Humphries' picture that is in the house, in the front parlor of the Humphries home, he says, that's her. That's her photograph. That's her wedding dress. That's her hairstyle. But it's really not. It's kind of hard to make this out. Even if you do blow this thing up, and trust me, I've looked at this thing almost corner to corner, looked at it. It's hard to make details out on this, like, the fabric in the dress, facial features, that kind of stuff. It's definitely somebody. We know that. But I don't believe it is Mrs. Humphries. I believe it's someone else. And he says that's her in her wedding dress. Well, to me, that doesn't look like a wedding dress because it looks a little short. A wedding dress would have been floor length in those days. It would have been something to behold, and where's the veil and all that kind of stuff like that. But whoever she is, she does appear there. We know that for a fact. That's her photo. Where you're going to click, I don't know what we got up here next. Where are we going now? Oh, this is the road. This is the road that you have to walk up to get to Bachelors Grove. This is in the broad daylight. Even during the day, it's kind of an isolated looking spot. This actually was the Midlothian Turnpike. So it was actually a highway. That's kind of what's left of the highway. Pavement here and there is broken up in that, and you walk all the way down this for a couple of blocks to get up to Bachelors Grove Cemetery. People have also been known to dodge cars. They're walking down this road, and they've been known to get out of the way of cars, phantom cars that come by, and just kind of go through them. Another one of those things that happen. Spawns a lot of urban legends here, too. We have the urban legend of the hooked man. The old horror stories of the couple that's in the car parked, doing what couples do in parked cars in isolated spots, and they hear something tapping on the door, and they do nothing about it. They stay there for the night. When they wake up in the morning, they open the door and they find a hook with someone's arm hanging on their car door. The other urban legend, it's always something with a car. The couple that's in the car, they're parked there, the car won't start. Classic horror story formula here, right? So the boyfriend says, well, I'll go and get help, just stay in the car, you're all right. He goes, leaves her there, and during the night she kind of dozes off, and she hears something thumping on the roof of the car. And dawn breaks, and the police are around her, and they wake her up, and they tell her, okay, come out of the car, walk over to the squad car, but don't turn around and look back at anything, just kind of walk that way. Well, she does, of course, and when she does, she sees her boyfriend's body hanging up over the car with his feet dragging on the roof of the car with no arms. So all these little urban legends that we don't know if these things happened or not, but they've been known to happen there. So this also fosters a lot of mysteries of Bachelors Grove Cemetery. So we have a lot of things here. We have urban legends as well as some actual documented things. Oh, Chinatown, one of my favorite spots. I love Chinatown. I love Chinatown. I love the Chinese people. Now, this is not South Side. This is definitely up north over on Wentworth there. You will not find any more superstitious and people that believe in ghosts and with their belief in ancestors and the next life and everything more than the Chinese. They love this. Everything in Chinatown is set up for a reason. Even the way this is here, this gate, this is set up to allow the dragon to come in. The dragon is good fortune. You want the dragon. The dragon is the only mythical animal in the Chinese zodiac. All the other ones are all legitimate animals. We have the rooster, the rat, the rabbit, all the, anybody know your Chinese zodiac sign and all that? And it goes like in a 12-year cycle, so you have the 12 animals. If you're born in the year of the dragon or you are the dragon, it's very lucky, because the dragon is a very, very lucky animal. Yeah, and it's a 3-toed dragon. The 4-toed dragon was reserved for the emperor, only the emperor. Chinese are very much into numbers, lucky numbers, unlucky numbers. One street in Chinatown, 2s are a lucky number. They will pay money to get their addresses changed, to get the 2s, to get 8s, to get 6s. They take flights when they're going. They love to gamble. They are big. They're very frugal shoppers. Oh, they'll chew you up for a 50-cent coupon. But to go and gamble at casinos, they love to gamble. They will gamble so much they'll lose their restaurants and homes and everything to gambling. They just love to gamble. But they love lucky numbers. They book flights to Las Vegas and to casinos and stuff with 8s and 6s, multiples. Then the theory thing too is if you get like a 1 in your number, your phone number, or your address, But if you have 2s and you have 8s in it, the 2s and the 8s kind of counteract the 1s, so it's okay. They're very much into that. Very superstitious. We have a couple of known ghosts in Chinatown. The Golden Phoenix Restaurant. Restaurant down on the ground floor. Upper floor now is restaurant, but at one time was rooms and apartments. And some of the employees that used to work for the restaurant lived there. And there was a story of a Chinese man that lived there and worked in the restaurant and lost a tremendous amount of money to gambling and could never pay it back. So to find a way out for this, he chose to hang himself and commit suicide. And his ghost appears there, and he likes to still work in the restaurant. They say if they leave tables undone or they leave dishes in the sink or things left at night, when they come back in the next morning, it's all straightened out. It's all done. He cleans up for them. So he's kind of a nice ghost. They like him. We have a little Chinese lady that likes to join tour groups for whatever reason. Tour groups in Chinatown. And I told us when I bring a group through there, not to just add more to it because it's been documented. We have a Chinese lady. She wears a red coat, short bobbed hair. She speaks broken English. She does like to join with groups. She will wear the jacket, but if it's kind of a warm day, she'll take the red jacket off and hold it in her arms so she kind of fits in a little better. She doesn't stick out like why is she wearing the jacket when it's a warm day. So we have ghosts in Chinatown. A lot of stuff goes on in Chinatown. Just wanted to point that out. Lucky colors. Everything is red, green, and gold in Chinatown. Those are your lucky colors. Got to have red, green, and gold and everything. Everything in Chinatown is red, green, and gold. Next photo. Let's see what we got. We got nothing. Oh, there we go. Oh, this looks familiar, everybody. Right outside our doors here. Good old Resurrection Cemetery. Who has not heard of Resurrection Mary? Everybody's heard at least one story of Resurrection Mary. This is our mausoleum that we have over at Resurrection Cemetery. And a lot of people do not know this, but this thing is in the Guinness Book of World Records. That is the largest continual stained glass window in the world. Biggest, yeah. Mm-hmm. You would think it would be like some big cathedral in Europe or something. That would be it, but this is it. From the outside, it doesn't look like a whole lot, but if you go on the inside, even on a real cloudy day, it's just absolutely beautiful. The way the light comes through that glass and everything, it's just really stunning. This mausoleum has a lot of activity in it. You go in there and they have that weird dirges, those funeral dirges playing over the broadcast system when you walk in, that type of music. The music will stop and start at will. The electric in that building, sometimes you'll drive down Archer Road there at night and you'll see lights on, and then if you're driving back at a later hour, you'll see the lights off. Lights go on, go off all the time. The elevators do not work. I won't go in the elevators in there. A lot of times if I go in there during the day for something, there's nobody in there, I won't go in the elevator because I figure if I get stuck in this elevator, they'll find me 2 weeks later, they'll never find me, and I'll stay to join them. People that work there, they won't. They'll tell you right out, they won't stay there past 5 o'clock. Even in the summertime when it's lighter longer, they don't stay past 5 because that's when things kind of happen there. They've had it rewired a few times. They don't know what's doing it. They've had it rewired. They just can't figure out why this malfunctions with the electric. Stuff does definitely happen here. And then we have our story of Resurrection Mary. Just to kind of give you, in case you've not heard the story of Resurrection Mary, we have a couple of versions of it, but the very basic story is we go back in time a little bit to the 1920s, 1930s, and we have a girl named Mary. She loved to dance, loved to go listen to the big bands and listen to music down Archer Road, not too far from the cemetery, at the Willowbrook Ballroom. In those days, it was called the O. Henry Ballroom, but it's still there. It's now Willowbrook. Well, supposedly the way the story goes, one version of it was she went there with a date. She got stood up by the date. He left with someone else, or they had an argument and she didn't want to go with him, and so she decided to hitchhike home to get home. So Archer, in those days, being a very dark spot, not too well lit and everything, she got hit by a car, is killed, and is buried in Resurrection Cemetery. And she has been reliving this for decades, where she's been known to hitchhike all along Archer Road. Single men was the story for a long time that picked her up and said, where do we want to take you? Where do you live? She would tell them, stop here. When she comes to the gate, she darts in, she disappears, she dematerializes. Some of the other versions of her story is she darts across the road, and people slam on the brakes and they actually think they hit someone. This is where the police become involved. This adds a little more legitimacy to the story because when you claim it's a hit and run, like someone will say, someone darted in front of my car and I hit him. And then they go to the Justice Police Station, which is not too far down the road from this, and they'll say, we think we just hit somebody with the car. Well, the police go, they will make a report, they will write this up, they will investigate, and of course they don't find a body, they don't find anything there, and that's when it becomes a little more, it's the Resurrection Mary, so we have nothing. So they do have these reports there. They're a little hard to get a hold of, to read those. You kind of have to know somebody there that will let you look at them. That's one story of the Mary story. Another one is that she was not even dancing at the O. Henry Ballroom at the Willowbrook. It was actually another ballroom altogether. It was also another person. I think that's why I think there's two Marys. I'll tell you a little bit about that. This was actually at the Liberty Grove Ballroom, which was on 47th and Mozart. It's no longer there. And they think she liked to dance there. Same thing, was hitchhiking, killed, and is buried in Resurrection. One reason that they feel there's so much unrest with Mary, why does she keep doing this? Why does she keep reenacting this? This is what ghosts do. They're reenacting what they did in life. They're following the path they took in life. That's why people say, why do ghosts walk through walls? Why do ghosts fly through the air? They're actually not. What they're doing is they're following the path in life that they took. Some of the ghosts that haunt the White House, we won't talk about it today. It's a whole other presentation. Some of the ghosts that haunt the White House walk through walls. Well, over the years, they've remodeled the White House and added things to it and done stuff to it. When they were there, those walls weren't there. So their path in life is taking them through those walls. They're going up a staircase that's no longer there. That's why they appear to be flying through the air. They're actually going up stairs that are no longer there. But when they were there in life, there were stairs there. That's what they're doing. That's what Mary's doing. She's reacting this same thing over and over, going down Arch Road, hitchhiking, and she darts into the cemetery and disappears. One reason why, a theory, why there's so much unrest with Mary is she cannot find her grave. What they used to do in the 1930s, in the Depression years, when the Depression was at its height, you didn't have money for food. The cemeteries all had a thing called term burials. What a term burial was when someone died, this would be a tremendous burden on a family. You didn't have money for food. Where are you going to come up with $300 for a burial? What you would do is you would put a deposit on a burial plot, maybe a $5 deposit or a $10 deposit. Your loved one could be buried, and then at the end of a term, usually it was a very long term because they knew no one had money, a 25-year term, you had to pay the balance off on this plot. If you didn't pay it off at the end of the 25 years, they could dig your loved one up, have them moved, and then resell that plot. They believe this is what happened to Mary. They believe she was buried in one of these term burial plots, and then the mother, who she lived with, passed away. There was no one there to finish paying the balance. So Mary was actually moved to another grave, and they believe that's why there's so much unrest. She's always going back into the cemetery looking for her place of rest. Another theory is there are actually two. This is one I tend to believe. There's a girl named Mary Bergovi, who they believe to be the Resurrection Mary. And then there's another girl named Anna Norkus, who they believe to be Resurrection Mary. Both stories do kind of click. Both were killed in a car accident. Both were killed supposedly hitchhiking. But one, Anna Norkus, was very young. She was 14 years old. She died in 1927. Mary Bergovi dies in 1934. So they're right in the same time period there. Just a theory that I have that there are two Resurrection Marys is because I've talked to quite a few people that claim to have had encounters with Resurrection Mary, although I myself never did. And I've been up and down Archer Road at all hours of the day and night, even in the days before they put the subdivision and the houses across, when it was a lot darker and a lot more isolated than it is now. I never encountered Resurrection Mary or anything even remotely close to her. But many people claim they did. Not only single men, but couples. And some of the stories, they'll say she's wearing white, blonde hair, hairstyle and pin curls, old-fashioned style, old-style dress, that type of thing. Another one says she's wearing a blue dress. So that's why I think there's two, because ghosts, as far as I know, don't change their clothes. So there could very well be two. There could be one in blue, there could be one in white. Just different theories on it. Anybody have any questions about any of this or any comments on anything here? Okay.
I saw her once, but she had beads on her dress.
You saw her? She had beads on her dress? Okay. What happened when you saw her? You want to come up and tell me about it? Come on up. We'll have you come up and mic and talk. Just come on up. Share your story.
I have a question.
Okay, we'll get to you. Let me just have, is this your sister?
No,
Okay.
Your friend.
Okay, well, we'll talk to your friend first. Okay.
Okay, there's a cemetery. Well, when me and my mom was driving, it was on the side of the cemetery going by my aunt's.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's this rock. It looked like she was sitting on it, and she was sitting, waving her hand, and her dress was white with blonde hair, like with a bow, and then she had beads on her dress.
Okay, so that would kind of click with an old-style dress, wearing a bow in your hair. Now, this might be the younger one. Now, an older girl that may be in her 20s or 30s may not wear a bow in her hair, but like a 14-year-old who Anna Norkus was, she might be the one that would wear a bow, that type of style. And it kind of clicks with what she, wears. Blonde-haired, supposedly very pretty, wears the white gown. So you probably had a Mary encounter. Did you actually see her disappear, or did you just kind of go by and say, wait, we saw somebody there, and try to go back to look for her?
When we were going past, she was there, but then at nighttime, like 2, 3-ish, coming from my aunt's.
2, 3-ish in the morning?
Yeah.
What are you doing out at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, running down Archer Road? Well, you were with your mom in the car, I know. Yeah.
And we're driving, and that she was walking, and I saw her, and she's going in the cemetery, and sat. And then when I looked, and I looked forward, I looked back,
She's
and
gone.
she's gone.
Okay, I believe you. I believe you 100%. Kids don't lie. Yeah, she saw something. She definitely did. And a lot of things about your story click. Now, have you talked to anybody else that's had an encounter with Resurrection Mary? No, nobody?
No one else.
So this is just something you experienced yourself?
Yeah.
I believe you 100%. Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I believe your story. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. Yes, son, what did you have to say?
My friend,
Come on up and tell me. Sorry about that. Go ahead,
my
talk to
friend
me.
Brianna, she said she almost saw her,
She almost saw her?
Yeah.
How do you
But
almost see somebody?
but
You either
she
see
said
him or you
no.
don't.
She said she thought she saw her.
Okay.
And I knew about Resurrection Mary.
Mhm.
And I told her it might be her, and she said she wasn't have anything on her dress. All she had was just a white dress.
Just a white dress. Yeah, and that kind of clicks too. That would be the story. That's what we got. Okay, thank you, hon. Yeah. Now, it's interesting that kids are coming up and telling us, because this is like one of the first stories we all hear as kids. We all hear about Resurrection Mary. We all hear this. So, see, the legend is going on. Stuff with this story does click, because the description does click. Her sitting down, sometimes she does sit. One person that I spoke with that has claimed to have had a Mary encounter said they were driving down Archer Road. This was a different story, something worth investigating. When I get maybe a couple of people that tell me the same story, I'll look into it a little more seriously. Right now, I just have it kind of on the back burner because it's the first time I've heard this one. But the person said they were driving down Archer Road. All of a sudden, their car was acting up. And this was in August, right around 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. That's one thing that puts credibility to your story, because that's about the best time for Mary sightings, about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, late August. That's when she seems to be seen the most. Most reports of her are. Anyway, the person was driving down Archer Road, and their car acted up. And they couldn't control the car. It kind of started to swerve. They were trying to straighten it out and everything. And they said they just felt something. They felt the temperature change and looked on the seat, and the seat was all wet next to them. It was kind of a dewy night, like a misty, dewy kind of night, and the seat was all wet, like someone had been sitting there. So the person says, I firmly believe Mary was sitting there, and then she got up and just disappeared from the car and went into the cemetery. I did not see her, but the person said there was nothing there that would cause this. Where would this wet come from? Yes? Oh, I don't know. In the mausoleum itself, I don't know. I've got so much family in there. I got scared to death one time. I went in there, I was visiting, and I saw my aunt and uncle's name on one of the slabs in there. I thought, oh my gosh, they passed away, and I didn't know it. But they'll do this. They'll put your name on there before you're in the thing. I called them up just to see if they were still alive. I said, don't do that to me. I said, don't do that. Eventually, I'm going to be on one of these tours, because I've got 2 burial plots in Resurrection. I'm going to be in the garden mausoleum thing out there, and the same thing. They asked me if I want to put my name on it. I says, no, not until I'm on the other side of the stone. I don't want to go there and see my name on it. And I had an uncle that passed away that left me a burial plot. So what I'll eventually do is if I get tired of being in one spot, I'll move myself, and I'll move around. Yes, son?
This is about the first story. What
The Woodlawn Cemetery? Mm-hmm.
The one about the elephant?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
What 3 people know where the ancient...
We don't know. That's the secret. There's 3 people that know that. They know where this little ivory valuable elephant is buried. There's one buried there at that cemetery, and there's one buried in the cemetery out west. And only these 3 people know it.
Trying to find it?
No. No, because to do that, you have to do some digging around there, and you look a little suspicious if you do some digging in the cemetery, and you're not kind of licensed to do that. A lot of that used to go on at Bachelors Grove. Very first time I went out to Bachelors Grove Cemetery about 100 years ago in 1972, when you could drive your car right up there and just go right into the cemetery. Some of the graves were half dug open, and I did find a dog carcass laying there. Someone had slit a dog, and it was laying there, and that's one of the apparitions that does actually appear there. Some people have encountered a snarling dog at the gates, and then when they kind of come close to him, he just dematerializes and go into nothing. So I often wondered if it was the same dog that I had seen his carcass there or not. But any other questions, comments on anything? Anything to add? Anybody actually had a ghost encounter themselves? I know, you 2 have. I know that, yeah. What did you have?
One night I was in my house.
Come on up and tell me about it. Tell us all about it.
One night I was in my house. I didn't see anything. I just heard something.
think there's
And
something here.
I always, like, my bed is, like, right here.
Mhm.
And then the door's right next to it, and then the bathroom.
Mhm.
And I heard a toilet flush and the sink run, and no one was there.
Yeah, that happens a lot. In my house, I've got somebody on the 2nd floor that goes from the bedroom to the bathroom. I've never seen him, but I hear, like I said, I hear things and smell things a lot, but I hear the footsteps. Because ages ago, I had a lady that died in my house. I've lived in that house all my life, and when I was a little boy, she died there. She lived in our apartment upstairs, and she died there. And every once in a while, when I'm laying on the couch and things are kind of quiet, If the conditions are just right, I'll hear the footsteps. And many times I've gone up there, I know who it is, it's Mrs. Frosty, that was her name, Della Frosty, she lived up there, and I'll go up and look for her, but she's never there. I hear her, and I know she's walking there, but that's it. Yeah. Sometimes children seem to be more in tune, children and animals seem to be more in tune with paranormal for whatever reason, probably because of their innocence. Many people will say their dog in their house stares at a spot, looks at something, they don't know why it's doing that. Animals are just more in tune with this stuff. Yeah, a lot of times they're seeing something you can't see. This happens quite frequently. Anything else to say? Anybody got anything? What else, hon?
At my grandpa's house,
Go on.
at my grandpa's house, me and my mom was watching her grandpa,
Mm-hmm.
and at night, it was in the middle of the night, I couldn't sleep. Well, my great grandma died in a fire, and at the house.
The house burnt down.
The house burnt, and is your great-grandmother?
Half the house burnt with my grandma in it.
Okay.
And then, so they rebuilt the half of the house, and my grandpa was still living. Well, at night when my grandpa we would be thinking she sleeps. Well, I was sick that last night, and Humphrey was there, her dog. My mom had to go and run and get medicine, so while my mom ran, the dog started walking up the stairs sniffling, and then I'm like, what are you doing, Humphrey? And I was listening. Okay, there was a separate room with my grandpa in the room.
Okay.
I heard talking. Well, of course, it's not a boy talk, it's a woman talk, and I saw my grandpa sitting up in his bed talking to.
Now, Grandpa is still with you?
No,
He's passed away too. Okay, so you saw him, and you saw him talking to.
Like
Okay.
at night, and there was like this shadow. It was on the wall. It was a shadow, and there's this picture of her and him next to each other. Well, he was talking. I'm like, "What are you talking to, Grandpa?" And he just put his hand up, and he was like talking like a conversation with like a shadow, and I believe it's my grandma.
I believe it too. It could very well be, yeah. Mm-hmm. Many times now, something like this where it may have been a traumatic death, that's why that impression is left there. So you would have that spirit there. Not every person that's a ghost, though, is a ghost because of something horrible like a suicide, a death, some awful thing, or dying in a fire or something like that. It's not always those type of things. A lot of times they're there just because they like that house. What did you have to say, hon? Yeah.
The story that I just told you, I think it was my Aunt Penny who died.
Yeah, it could very well be. There's that old story, too, about the person that loves you. They come back to you 3 times. They visit back 3 times. So, yeah, there's something to all these. Yeah, what'd you have to say? Come on up and tell me. Tell us all. That's why we're here. We love to hear these things. Yeah.
We actually live right across the street from Resurrection Cemetery.
You're right in the area there.
New
Okay.
subdivision right
Yeah.
across the street. And I've had a few experiences in the house. It's a group of townhouses, and my boyfriend's a firefighter, so he works
Okay.
24-hour shifts. So every time I've experienced something, I'm by myself. And I've just had twice where I felt someone literally getting into bed with me, and one of the times I thought he came home from work early.
Okay.
And I turn around and there's no one there. I've had someone yell in my ear, "Boo,"
Okay.
like really loud.
Yeah.
Because I get freaked out and I kind of scare myself a little bit. One morning I was leaving for work, and we have a bathroom in the hallway, and before I left the house, I left the bathroom door open because we have a nightlight in there, and I thought, well, at least I'll have some light when I get home, so when I'm walking in, I'm not too scared
Sure.
to be by myself. And I came home that night, and the
Pitch
door
black.
was closed all the way.
And the light was out.
No, the light was still on,
Okay.
but the door was closed all the way, and the way this door is, once you keep it open all the way, it can't close on its
Okay.
own.
Because that's the first thing I would try to investigate is, did the wind close it? Did the door just move on its own? All these kind of things. And
Yeah.
when you have
I
no,
even stood there and
yeah,
was
when
like-
you have no explanation for it, then you say, okay, we got something going on here. But
Yeah.
this is a relatively new home.
Yeah.
Okay, a lot of times people will say, thank you, thanks very much. A lot of times people say, we've lived in our house for 30 years, 20 years, we never had anything happen. All of a sudden, we're seeing somebody standing on the stairs, we're hearing voices, something's in the basement, we hear footsteps, all these things are happening. First thing I ask them is, did you do any remodeling? Yeah, we just put an addition on. That's it, bingo. When you start remodeling in that, you shake these things up. A lot of times they're dormant and they're kind of sleeping there, they're at peace. When you start doing some remodeling in that, it shakes them up, and then they start making their presence known. And a lot of times, too, what's happening is in the area that you added on to. The house itself, you might not have no activity in it, but something happened on that ground, or somebody was on that ground, and you're building over it, and that stuff stays in that atmosphere. So when you're building over that, you're bringing that into your house. It's not always bad. Don't be afraid. I mean, be afraid of ghosts. We all are. You know, when you see them, every time I've seen one, I've been startled by them. Very, very extremely rarely does a ghost ever hurt you. They don't. They will do some mischief. They will make their presence known. You will see them. But they, you know, we've all seen the Hollywood movies and this kind of stuff, and they give us one image of it. That's for entertainment's sake, and that's fine. But that's not the way it is. It's extremely rare cases where a ghost ever does any kind of physical bodily harm to you. Yeah, it's very rare, extremely rare. Most of the times it's like a demon possession or something like that. It's not actually a ghost itself. It's something else mistaken for a ghost, because ghosts don't do that. Ouija boards are another thing I recommend very strongly. I like to say this whenever I can. Please stay away from Ouijas. Are just awful. They're very bad. I worked for 24 years for Toys R Us, and we sold those things with the board games, Ouijas, and I would see kids come up and buy them, and I always cringed. Now what they're doing, because the word is getting around about these things, not to use them. Even professional people don't like to use the Ouijas. I don't recommend you use them. What they're doing now is they're remarketing them, calling them spirit boards. It's a Ouija, but they're marketing them in a really brightly colored box. It almost looks cartoonish kind of looking to make it look cheerful, but it is a Ouija in disguise. They're just doing this to kind of boost sales, because Ouija have been kind of taking a bad rap lately, so just don't fool around with Ouijas. When you fool around with Ouijas, what happens a lot of times is you can bring an entity in. Oh, we need to talk into the mic? Oh, sorry, I forgot about that. Yeah, when you fool around with a Ouija board, you can a lot of times bring a bad entity in. You don't know what you're bringing in. It's almost like a seance, but with a seance, you don't really bring in bad people. With Ouijas, you can. Sometimes you may have some sort of a spirit in your home or an entity, and it's a nice one. It's very good. You fool around with that Ouija, pushes them out, and you get somebody bad in there. I know someone that did this. They had a nice lady in their home, an elderly lady dressed in blue, and she would sit in the rocker. She would go in the kids' room, and they would see her look over the crib and, you know, look after the kids, and she was very nice and everything. And then they were fooling around with a Ouija, with the thought theory being they were trying to contact this woman. What happened was they had some bad thing come in, and it kicked her out. She's gone, and now they got this bad one. They opened some sort of a portal, and they brought this thing in. Now they're trying to get rid of that. They're getting people in to do a cleansing and everything to get rid of this. So you can fool around with these. If you don't know what you're doing, they can be very dangerous things. They're just not good. They're not nice people. They will do some tell you things. They'll do some damage to the house. They'll do some things that are not nice. Like I say, it's very rare for them to actually do any physical bodily harm to you, but they're just not nice to be around.
My grandma told me that ghosts can't hurt you.
That's what I just told you, the same thing. If your grandma said it, she's got to be right. We got 3 minutes? Oh, okay, we got 3 minutes here, and then we're going to stop it. Yes? I seen two guys at Bachelors Grove Cemetery, and I went into a restaurant one time, and in the restaurant, I saw a ghost. Not too far from my house, we used to have a 24-hour diner that was there, and I would often go there at night, like 10:30 at night, 11 o'clock at night, and I knew the lady that worked there at the third shift, and she always told me, we have something in this building. One of the police from town told me there's something in that building. I says, okay, I haven't experienced it myself, but I've heard it from two people. So one night I was in there, and it was about 11:30 at night, and I always sat in the back of the restaurant in a booth, and I would be in front of the restroom. And so I sat there and got up to go inside and to wash my hands and then sit down and eat my dinner. And there was one man sitting at the counter, and the lady that worked there on the third shift. She was back there working. And so I went in the bathroom, and as I'm in there washing my hands, the door is pushing open, and I push it back shut. And then the door is pushing open again. I thought, now why did, the man's name was Rich. I said, why did Rich come in here? He saw me go in. Why is he coming into the bathroom? Well, I pulled the door open real fast just to say, well, what are you doing? What do you want? And there he was, standing there. And it was like a uniformed man, like a police officer's uniform or a postal person's uniform, a dark blue uniform. And I saw it, and there again, I startled him almost as much as he startled me. And then he moved. He went back, and he went through the counter. I watched him, and the other lady that was working there, she says, now do you believe what I told you? She saw the same thing I did. And he walked from the bathroom through the counter, because I guess that counter was not there when he was there, and into the kitchen area. That was it. When I went to Bachelors Grove Cemetery, oh, this is a while back. This is about 15 years ago, and I was on a tour with one of these tour outfits. And incidentally, we are running. I gave you those sheets there. This Saturday, we're running 2 tours with Summit Park, so we'll take you around to a lot of locations I talked about tonight. And yet, one is in the morning, 9 to 1, and then we have one in the afternoon, 2 to 6. We have a few seats open, not too many on them. We got like 4 on the afternoon. The morning you can get some seats on, but the afternoon one, we only got like 4 seats. So if you want to go, the number's on there, call the Park District. 1 minute left. I got to do this real fast. Bachelors Go Cemetery, talking to 2 guys, and I asked them, I says, where are the foundations for houses back there and that? And so the lady that ran the tour guide, we went back there, and I said, well, I'm going to go with these guys. They're going to show me. Okay, fine. So she left. She went back to the group that she brought there that were milling around by the tombstones, and I went with the 2 guys back there. And I'm talking to them, and we're talking about the homes, and there's some wells there, and we're talking about that, and different things and everything. And I just kind of glanced away, and when I glanced back, they were just not there. That was it. They were just not there. I thought, okay, Bob, come on. Your imagination is playing with you. You're seeing things, this and that and the other. And I thought, well, they had to go somewhere. And I looked wherever they could hide, whatever they could go behind, nothing. And then I started thinking it, and you start second-guessing it and thinking clothes. And I'm thinking, okay, T-shirts, bell-bottoms. I said, wait a minute, bell-bottoms. That's my key here. Who's wearing bell-bottoms now? This is 60s, 70s. This is not the 70s anymore. And then I thought, well, all right. You try to rationalize this. This is what kids are into, retro clothes and this kind of stuff. So I kind of kept it to myself. And then our next stop on this tour was the Holy Sepulchre Cemetery. And I called her aside. I said, Janine, do you think you would know those 2 guys that I talked to? She says, yeah. And I says, well, let me tell you what happened. She says, why do you think I didn't go with you? So she knew something. Yeah, she knew something. She was a little more in tune with it than I was. We are about done with radio. Okay, that is about all we have for this presentation, and that is our paranormal radio show for the month of October. We'll be back on again next November. I don't know what I'm going to do. We'll probably do that tribute to Richard Crowe that I promised to do this month, and we'll bring some guests on and talk about him. And listen to us on Windy City, www.windycityhometown.com. Go up on YouTube, Paranormal Radio, and today's date, and you can get this broadcast, 10/24, and you'll be able to listen to this broadcast entirety and all the folks that we had talking on here. Thank you very much, folks. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now, we're going to play You Bet Your Life. And we ask you who's buried in Grant's tomb, and it's done. That's it. So you want to start first?
Me?
Okay.
No.
No?
Yeah,
No.
I want her to start first.
You want to go first?
I don't want to start first. I want her to start first.
How about the elderly go first?
You want the older couple to go first? Okay. We'll start with you. What is your name?
Valerie.
Just talk into the mic there. Is he doing this on the thing, or we're just doing it for our benefit here? We're doing it. Val? What do you do for a living, Valerie?
Work at Target.
You work. Well, you got to work somewhere. You might as well work at Target. I always tell people. I always say, if you're dissatisfied with the job you got, you think it's so bad, go be a cashier at Target. See what they put up with. I worked retail for many, many years. And retail stuff, it's not easy. But Target is nice. Which Target do you work at?
Portland.
That's the one I like. I like going to. I live out here, but when I go out to Orlando, like maybe once a week or every other week, they are so friendly in your store. People will come up to you when I walk in there and just ask you if you need help. The Lowe's out in Orland and Target, I love both of those stores. They're very nice people out there. I go to our Target here, and they're not quite so friendly. They're not mean, but they're just a lot nicer out there in Orland. Any aspirations to do anything else in school, doing extra training?
Training for the pharmacy now.
Training for pharmacy? Okay, so you want to go and drug people?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, well, it's worthwhile. It takes a while to do it, but it pays off in the end. You could end up working at the Target pharmacy. Okay, and the guy that's playing with you, now who's this? How are you two connected?
Just friends.
Just friends? Okay. What is your name, sir?
My name is Keith,
What do you do for a living, sir?
firefighter.
You're a firefighter?
Yes, sir.
Now, do you deliberately go and start these fires and then go fight them, or
Not anymore, no. I just put them out.
you put them out now? Okay. Now, what fire department do you work for?
Maywood and Stickney.
So they don't have full-time fire departments? They have 2 part-time
Maywood's
departments?
full-time, Stickney's part-time.
You just can't get in there full-time, so you got to do 2. Is that the idea? I got it. I know this is how most towns do this now. You kind of get part-time, then you work into full-time. It's either you got to do it that way or it's all part-time. That's how they do it now because benefits. No one wants to pay anymore. Yeah. How long have you been with the fire department?
Maywood, 5 years, Stickney about 9.
Any serious fires you've done, or yeah, some serious stuff? Yeah.
Yeah.
Firefighters put their lives on the line all the time. That's what they say. There again, if you ever get tired of that, go be a cashier at Target. You could work together. Yeah. You might find that a little more riskier. Okay, ready to play You Bet Your Life? Now you know the rules. You got $20 bank. It's imaginary money. I'm not paying you $20. And you go anywhere from $1 to 20. The higher dollar amount you go, you get tougher questions. You go lower, you get easier questions. You get 4 questions.
If you get the answers right,
I was wondering
you
where that
get-
came from. I just heard.
if you get the answers right, you get the amount of money that you
No, you don't get the money. We're playing with imagine. We can play with
I know, but
points.
you get
We can
the-
play with points, but it's more fun if you say it's money. I think people try a little harder.
Ching,
But you do win. I do have prizes for you, though. You do win something. Okay, what would you like to bet for your first amount?
$5.
You want to go 5? Okay. We give you one from 1960s TV. You got to think back. We're going back like 30 years ago. We go to 1960s. You remember the Munsters
Yes.
on TV? $5, you kind of get a moderately hard question here because it's a $5 one.
Here's the number of the
What
Munsters.
address did the Munsters live at?
1313 Mockingbird Lane.
She got it right. She knew it. 1313 Mockingbird Lane. That was the address of the Munsters, yeah. Okay, so she bet 5 on it. Somebody's got to keep, who wants to keep score?
Grandma.
Grandma's
She's the
gonna keep
best
score?
scorekeeper.
Keep score, Grandma. They bet 5. They started
Here,
from
if
20,
you
they
need a
got
pen,
$25.
here.
I
If
got
you need
that
a
for
pen. Okay.
So keep score. They got 25. Okay, you did well on that one. You got $25. What do you want to bet for your next question? And you got one right. You need 4 more or 3 more.
Another 5.
You want to go another 5? Okay. Okay. We're going to go back again to 1960s TV, as long as you seem to be a fan of that, and you did that so well. Now we have another family of ghouls that we had on TV the same time we had the Munsters. They were the Adamses. The Adams family, they had 2 children. What were the children's names?
Wednesday and Pugsley.
She got it right. She got it right. Absolutely right. That was another 5. You got 2 right. You need 2 more to go, and then you're on your way. Okay, what would you like to bet for your next question?
5 again.
You're sticking with that 5. Okay.
I'm doing
All right.
well with the 5.
Okay. You remember at the beginning of the presentation we talked about, I talked about Woodlawn Cemetery?
Yep.
How many statues of elephants did I say were in Woodlawn?
5.
5. She got it right. This is just too easy. Yeah. 1 more and that's it. 1 more. And now what's their dollar amount? What are they up to? $35. You got 1 more question to go. What do you want to bet?
You know the answer to this. 5.
She wants to go 5 again? Should I give him a tougher one?
Yes.
Yes.
Tougher.
Something a little tougher? Okay,
Way
since you knew 1960s TV real well and you knew the Adams family, you knew the Munsters, what was Wednesday Adams' middle name?
No idea.
Want to take a guess?
Tuesday?
You were in the right area, but you didn't get it. You had no home run there. Her name was Thursday. It was Wednesday, Thursday Adams. So now you lost 5. Now we go backwards. You lost 5 and you're down to 2 questions. So now you need 2 more right. How much you want to bet?
You're going to make it as hard as you want no matter what.
Nah.
Go
Do
with
3.
3.
You want to go $3? Okay, we give you a moderately easy one here, right? We talked a bit about Resurrection Mary here, right? We talked about this. And I kind of said a theory that I had. How many Resurrection Marys did I say I think there were?
2.
2.
Yeah, okay, that's it. So they got
Hey,
$3.
thanks for the
Now it's hard.
help.
When they do 3, then you got to do your math. What are they up to now? 33, and you need 1 more. How much you want to bet?
2.
You want to go? Now they're going to go easy. They want to go. They want to go real easy now. Okay. Let's see. No, that one might be a little too hard. Let
Do
me.
the
let me-
hardest you can.
Nah, we don't want to
Hey,
do
I
that.
didn't bet 20
Don't,
bucks.
don't worry about it. I'll cheat for you. Don't worry. Don't worry about it. Let's try this. Let's try something from
Will
the
you go
movies.
easy on the kids?
Let's try something from the movies. Everybody kind of knows this one. 1931 film Dracula. Very famous actor. He got typecast in the role all his life. Hungarian-born actor. What was his name?
Bela Lugosi.
Bela Lugosi was Dracula in 1931. You know, the same time they filmed Dracula in 1931 with Bela Lugosi, they filmed it at Universal during the day in Spanish with a completely different cast. During the day, I should say, they filmed it with Bela Lugosi,
I
and
got
then at
the
night,
CD.
on the same set, the same everything, but with a different cast, they filmed it in Spanish for the Spanish market.
I got the
Okay.
CD at home.
You got the CD, the Spanish one, or the old 1931 Dracula?
The old one.
Oh, you guys are really into this stuff, huh? No
Yeah.
wonder why you want to go see The Great Pumpkin. You're too grown up for that. Okay, what did they end up scoring? They got $35, and for your efforts, you win Halloween candy.
Lucky. I want to stay up all night eating candy.
As soon as I find it.
Found it.
You did. Halloween candy corn.
Thank
Now
you.
we come to YouTube characters. Okay.
Oh, we gotta win.
Okay, how much you want to bet? Now they scored. How much was theirs
Is it
total?
my turn?
They got 35. So you guys. Now how did they score 35? Because they had a $3 one in there. Oh, I got it. So they made. Okay, so they got 35. Now you got it. You're gonna try to beat 35.
Do we have the same names?
No, you don't have to. We already know your names. Okay, how much you want to bet for your first question?
10.
You want to go $10?
No!
10.
No! No, don't go that high.
If it's about movies, horror movies.
Well, it might be. It could be movies. It could be anything monsters. Like we're doing some TV. I wouldn't ask you anything like that because you might not know that. But it might be
Don't do
something.
it.
London.
It might.
Something about London.
It might be
please.
something we talked about tonight. You want something about London?
Yes.
And you got a $10 question? I'll give
I
it
know.
to you.
That'll be
I know a
easy.
movie.
I'll help you.
I'll give it to you. Okay. Ages ago, when I was 100 years ago, when I was a kid, there used to be a show on 10:30 at night on Saturdays called Creature Features. And the show opened up with that yeah, you like that one too. It opened up with that creepy music and the coffin opened, and there was an image of Lon Chaney Sr. He played a vampire in this film. We don't have a print of this film. The film doesn't exist. And it's something to do with London in the title. Tell me the title of that movie. It was an old silent film. They don't have the film anymore, doesn't it? So many people have asked.
It's about vampires, right? Or wolves?
He was a vampire. Yeah, you wanted a $10 question. You got it.
You should have not picked $10. You should have picked like $1.
Any idea you want to guess? It's something to do with London. I can give you that hint. London's in the title.
So is it the first word?
I'm not going to tell you that.
The Vampire of London?
Is that your final thing on it?
No.
No.
All right, you want to try again? Well, like I tell you, I lean a little on kids' side, so you want to try again?
Can you change the question?
No, that's what you got. We're not changing the question. Well, you obviously have no clue. The film was called London After Midnight. So many people asked when they used to use Lon Chaney for that logo on Channel 9, they said, why don't you ever show the film? They said, we don't show the film because we don't have it. Film doesn't exist. They have a lot of stills from it, but they don't actually have the film. You lost $10. You guys are down to 10. And you're minus one question. So you still got to get 4 right. How much? Yeah, go ahead. How much you want to bet for your next one?
1.
You want to go $1? Okay, you want to try a $1 question? Okay, we'll give you an easy one. Okay. We talked a little bit here about a gangster story I told you about. One gangster that haunted over by North Riverside. Do you remember his name?
Help me.
I only know the
Oh, that might be a little too tough. We'll give him something a little easier.
Yes.
Not you, them. When a lady sits down with yarn and she has 2 knitting needles, what does she do? What do you call it?
She sews or
No.
knits.
Okay, that's part of it. Knit.
Nitti. That's his last name, Nitti. Born in 1888.
Okay, that or
All right, we'll give it to you. You got it. Nitty's good enough. It's Frank Nitti. That's it. You got it.
Oh,
They got $11. You got $11. You got 2 right. You got to get 2 more. You got to get 2 more questions, and you're gonna try to beat $35. But I don't think you're gonna do it.
I'm
unless
going to
you-
do 1 again. No, not 5. Do 2.
$3.
$3. That's good.
You guys got to agree on something together. You're a team. $3.
Yeah, 3
You
is
want to
good.
go 3?
$3.
Okay. You want me to ask you something about the movies? You guys
Yes.
watch all those movies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something about London, about wolves.
London?
No, do
Rules.
something like that's new out because we're young.
Okay.
I know
Something about London with wolves. Okay. This man, I said Lon Chaney Sr., his son, Lon Chaney Jr., was very famous playing another screen monster. What did he portray in the movies? Something with London and wolves?
So.
What monster did he portray? Think of some
Told you.
monsters. Think of a monster with wolves. Something with wolves.
A werewolf.
He was a werewolf. Absolutely right.
Yay,
Yeah.
we got $3.
Lon Chaney Jr., it actually wasn't his name, but then he changed it to kind of capitalize on his name.
called the.
Werewolf After Midnight.
I thought it was the werewolf,
Werewolf of London. There was Werewolf of London, Werewolf After Midnight.
watched it.
He did
The
like 3 or
old
4 of them. Yeah. Mhm.
One.
Okay, what did they end up with here? 14, and you got
Yes.
one more question. You're never going to beat
It's
35,
5.
even if
No,
you bet the whole
one,
thing. So
one,
what do you
do
want?
Five.
Please, it's my turn.
Five.
You got to.
Five.
One.
Five.
1.
5.
How about
Five.
3?
3 is good.
Something in the middle.
4.
Okay, 4.
4.
All right. Now you know if you miss this,
3
you
and a
lose
half.
money, and then we got to go back again because you still got to get 4
3
right.
and 50 cents.
You want to bet 50 cents?
Okay, 3.
I said you could bet anything from $1 to.
Okay, 3.
3 and 50
You want to go?
cents.
All right, $3. We'll give you a $3
3 and
question.
50 cents.
Okay.
Okay.
You guys will probably know this. There was an actor. His name was Robert Englund. Real famous. He made a whole series of movies. He had the long fingernails, or just hit the thing with the slasher claws. Robert Englund was his name. What was the character he played? Something Freddy.
I don't know.
Freddy Krueger.
Freddy Krueger. You're absolutely right. They won. I don't think they got $35. What'd they end up with? You ended up with $17, but you still won, so you get candy too. You get monster in this. Now, you 2 adults scored the higher dollar amount. Do you want to try for the bonus question? Now, the way this works is we give you the bonus question, and if you don't get it, you got to give me back the candy. But if you get it, you keep your candy, and I give you something
Can we
else.
play again?
You're gonna make me invite
You wanna
to
try
a
it?
record if,
Absolutely.
okay.
Do
Okay,
it.
you want to try it?
Yes.
Okay, you're sure you want to do this now? This
Do
one
it.
comes out of a
No
general,
one says-
you kind of know your movies and TV and stuff and that, so we're going to ask you one.
How much money would it be?
We don't worry about the money. We're not playing for money. You got candy. You don't need money. Just eat the candy. Okay, here we go. Very, very first Dracula movie made. It was not called Dracula. It was made in 1922. What was the name of this movie?
Nosferatu.
Nosferatu. She's absolutely right. You know why they didn't name it Dracula?
Because they couldn't get the rights to the
They
book.
couldn't get the rights. Bram Stoker, the man that wrote the novel, he passed away, but his widow would not sell them the rights. So I said, fine, we'll make the movie. We'll just change the name. So that's what they did. For your efforts, you win. Since I work full-time at Subway, that's what I do full-time. I don't do ghost hunting. You get the famous $5 footlongs from Subway. And since you guys were such good sports, we give you the $5 footlongs too. So there.
Yay!
The only thing I have to tell you about these $5 footlongs is they're only good at one store. That's the store I work at. That's on 63rd and Harlem. So you got to come and see me and say hi and get your sandwich there. Okay? Thanks very much. Thank you for playing. Thank you.
Another bonus
We're done. I have no more prizes.
We won't